Gathering wood, exploring environments, fulfilling needs, and building a home to survive the elements. Hello, my name is GamerZach. I've been making these kind of list videos for a decade now, and welcome to my 30 upcoming PC survival games in 2023 and 2024 list that I make just for you. Note, this isn't about survival horror, but staying alive through the entropy of existence. Every year we get an endless wave of new games. Many struggle to live to the ends of their developments, but the more candidates there are, the higher the chance to survive. So these days we undoubtedly get a few gems every year. Which of these 30 games will turn out good? No one ever guesses right. Statistically, 1 to 3 games will succeed. So if you fancy yourself a survival expert, write down your prediction in a comment and come back in the future to see if you got it right. Don't forget, over 25 bonus games at the end after the main list as well. Now, let's get started. Sparking the Fire, it's Derelicts by Romain. A survival game where you build, craft, and explore alone or with friends in a hostile and mysterious wasteland. A unique thing here is that you'll be able to use electricity and water systems to help keep yourself alive, and the setting is kind of a mix between realistic and sci-fi, as there are a number of creatures that aren't quite what you would expect to find in a forest. Also, be ready for weather, as thunderstorms, blizzards, and other forces of nature could wreck your day. At a glance, this is visually great, and the twists with the setting and gameplay mechanics could be enough to set this apart from all the competition on this list. And although we have seen quite a bit shown off through video devlogs, there is no indication of any kind of release date or playable version yet. So we'll have to wait and see how Derelicts turns out. Staying alive, we have The Gold River Project by Fairview Games. You're cold, wet, and lost in the deep wilderness with rapidly changing seasons and hungry predators. Turns out, you're stuck in a madman's experiment and need to escape. An open-world survival adventure with 3 game modes: single-player, 4-player co-op, or 4-player free-for-all. Scavenging, solving puzzles, and survival mechanics are the core for this game. It looks great, and they have shown off a good amount of gameplay so far, for a game that's in development. So that helps boost confidence. And if gameplay does all come together as good as it looks right now, then this should be a promising one. Nothing specific for a release window as of now, so hopefully nothing goes wrong for the Gold River Project as it builds towards a publicly playable version. Next up, we've got Rooted by Headlight Studio. Multiplayer survival where you explore an ancient rooted post-apocalyptic world full of dangers. Crafting, hunting, building, and survival mechanics are here, of course, and you can play alone or with friends in this Unreal Engine 5 game. The world you play in is meant to be living, constantly evolving as you gain access to new areas, items, and crafting options over time, with major events that impact the world. Going through a Kickstarter, this might be able to go into full production, but as with any Kickstarter project, things could go in any direction. You don't need me to remind you that we've seen countless games never complete, rush to release, or end up taking up to a decade to finish all the promised features. But the early looks we've gotten so far have potential. We should just be cautious but optimistic with any crowdfunded project, such as Rooted and some others on this list. And then for a special one, it's Nightingale by Inflexion Games. Set off on a survival adventure into the mysterious and dangerous Fey realms as you become what's known as a realm walker. You can go it alone or with friends, but either way, you'll craft, build, and fight which is expected in a survival game, but the gas lamp fantasy setting is what's really making this different. You'll also assemble realm cards, which will combine to shape the next procedural realm you travel to, so you'll have some rough idea of what kind of dangers and discoveries lie ahead of you, but hopefully it's always a bit of a surprise. This looks really intriguing, as it can be very difficult to pull off a unique aesthetic, and often it ends up being more of a gimmick than anything else. But if they can have the world be more than some interesting creature models and intertwine some deep lore and storytelling, then this could be interesting. Originally having a 2022 start of early access, but delayed to 2023, it's then up to a year to full release. So maybe an early 2024 completion date for Nightingale. Okay, now we're a bit into the video. I'm sure you're enjoying it so far. I've spent a lot of time on this, so if you do appreciate what you see here, please do press the like button. It's free and it helps a lot. I'd also love to know which game on the list is your favorite, so comment down below. It does actually help me look for more games that you will want to see. Alright, next game. It's Karagon by, I'm gonna spell this out for you, TBJBU2. Survive, shoot, construct, and ride killer elemental robots. Okay, a bit different. There's equipment crafting, multi-floor buildings, and you uncover new schematics as you progress through technology tiers. You can play alone or with friends in this post-apocalyptic world, and generally it looks decent with some interesting ideas, though visuals seem a bit harsh on the eyes. Maybe it's just me. This could be a unique one if it all actually is as promised, and it plans to go into early access for less than a year, but I have to say, whenever I see early access plans that are less than 1 year, I always assume it's going to take much longer. Good news is there's a free demo, so you can check out Karagon yourself if you're curious and see what it's like in its current state. Going a bit more European, Among the Trolls by Forbidden Studios. Here we have a first-person survival action-adventure where strange mysteries of the Finnish forests are unraveled. Go on a quest to find your missing grandparents and learn how to survive the wilderness in the process. You play as either Alex or Anna, travelers from the US, and you're pulled into a world of Nordic mythology and childhood memories. Explore a vast world. Build and discover magical attributes and supernatural creatures in what's promising to be a beautiful audio-visual experience. The path they're taking is to release into early access, then take up to 20 months to 1.0 release. But of course things can change and it'll take much longer. Generally it looks okay, with some interesting ideas, but we'll see how Among the Trolls finds itself over the next couple years, as details aren't quite as fleshed out right now as I'd like them to be. Going a bit higher, it's Aloft by Astrolabe Interactive. Survive on floating islands caught in an eternal hurricane. Build your base and sail the winds to discover new islands while fighting back a corruptive fungus. It's saying this is a soft survival, meaning a survival game without the hassle, and you get rewarded for taking action instead of being punished for not doing tasks. This means it's a bit more on the casual side of survival, which is a good option to have, since we have a lot of hardcore survival games on this list already. And besides survival, there's also animal husbandry, windmill automation, and a large open world with fantasy creatures and corrupted islands. Play by yourself or with up to 7 friends. You can also share your island with the community if you're more of the creative sort. It seems like it's a bright, colorful, and chill experience, and overall a nice take on the survival genre. Having free demos through 2022, we have seen quite a bit of the game in its early state, so you can have a thorough viewing of what Aloft has been so far if you're interested. And then for a couple cold ones. First is Winter Survival by DRAGO Entertainment. proclaiming to be the ultimate winter survival experience. You were out on a lovely winter hike, and then you fell, leaving you alone to fight for your survival. With marginal supplies, you must hold off the cold, wildlife, and maintain your state of mind, as there is a sanity system where you can just lose it. You will also need to manage your thirst, hunger, and of course physical exhaustion is a thing. Make your way to a radio station and call for help, then survive until it arrives. The most interesting thing here is how the sanity system is implemented. That's where the game can do some unique stuff, and going from fatigue to mechanical limitations to full-blown hallucinations, things can get weird. But good if done in a captivating way. Having demos through 2022 was good, and it's going into early access by October 2022. After that, it's supposed to be only 6 months to release, but that isn't a lot of time. So we'll see if Winter Survival can actually release on schedule. Staying frosty, we have Outpost Glacier by Doomlord Interactive. Open world survival crafting, where you build an outpost in the middle of a frozen wasteland. Do whatever it takes to survive the harsh environment and uncover secrets scattered around the icy world. I like the look of this one. There's a lot of interesting things to see in this game, and being a first-person game does bring you up close and personal with them. It's just a question of progress. This development has been slow, and the free itch.io version seems to be on the back burner now as they work on a Steam release, most likely into early access. New things have been continued to be shown off on Twitter and their Discord, which are interesting and great additions, so we might get something updated in 2023 for Outpost Glacier, but this could end up as a long-running development over the next few years. Alright, now let's take a step back from first-person games for a while and zoom out for a bit. We've got Dissident Frostland Escape by Tequilabyte Studio. For a different kind of survival premise, this Frostland Escape has you imprisoned in a forced labor camp in a frozen wasteland, and you have to escape and survive being hunted. Should you stay and suffer or risk breaking out? You have to choose and live with your consequences, if you can stay alive anyway. There's a thoughts and madness system as well, so it's not just a physical challenge, and the game is split to 3 parts: escape, chase, and survival. Multiple characters, a generated modular map, and maybe your freedom are on offer with this game. This being top-down and isometric, it's got more of an indie feel, and being more zoomed out compared to the first-person games gives a very different feel, and I'm kind of wondering, which kind of perspective do you prefer with survival games? First-person and more personal, or from above and more managerial? Either way, this is an interesting take, and although not all phases of gameplay are strictly survival, I think the fundamental idea is about staying alive in harsh conditions. It adds a new kind of flavor to the genre, and with all the more expected formats of survival games on offer, maybe this has some niche appeal. Figuring out a 2023 release, a Dissident Frostland Escape plans to break free over the next year. From on high, it's Above Snakes by Square Glade Games. A Western-inspired base-building wilderness survival game. Craft your world by placing isometric tiles, exploring various biomes, and unraveling secrets as you take care with the lost souls roaming in the wilds. Promising deep base building, farming, and gardening, a sandbox with long-term progressions and replayability, and a story about settler and tribe conflicts. You uncover who your character really is through this journey. Above Snakes had a successful Kickstarter with a small goal and has been having demos through 2022 while aiming at an early 2023 release. So if you like what you see, then it won't be too long until you can play a full version of Above Snakes. Next up we have The Last Plague Blight by Original Studios. calling itself a brutally challenging and realistic survival game. This involves managing health, hunger, thirst, energy, disease, heat, dwindling resources, and all the threats of the world around you, as you are on a mission of discovery to find the origins of a mysterious new disease. You need to stop it before it's too late. Co-op multiplayer, fishing, farming, a building system, character customization, taming animals, and an injury and wound system all add to the realistic approach this game is going for. So although this is more of a zoomed out experience, it won't be a chill experience if you're looking for that. Visually, I like the way it looks. Realistic, but with a restrained pop of color. And the premise is going to put a bit of imperative to keep going. So there should never be a time where you've got nothing to do. Working towards an early access release by the end of 2022, there's no clear estimation on how long it'll take to complete, but we'll be able to play The Last Plague Blight soon, but it might be a long way to it being finished. Next up, we've got Wanderlost by Eli Segal. Survive, then thrive in a colorful zombie-infested world. Gather materials, craft weapons and tools, build and fortify a shelter, explore a massive world full of secrets of a dead civilization, and maybe do some fishing after killing some monsters? There is also the promise of deep RPG mechanics and character customization. By that it means on the gameplay side, not so much the role-playing side. But that should still mean a lot of room for a sense of progress. Indie-styled cute pixel art games are a rarity in the survival genre, so I know many of you aren't exactly hunting for something like this, but you got enough of the serious realistic ones to choose from, and after a successful Kickstarter with a sizable goal, there looks to be quite a few people who are looking forward to this. It could be a nice alternative flavor to survival, as it's kind of a mix between Don't Starve and Stardew Valley, I guess. And if it's a good combination of those two games, then I can see Wanderlost having some pretty big niche appeal. Joining the undead, it's V Rising by Stunlock Studios. You awaken as a vampire and must hunt for blood in nearby settlements to regain your strength. Avoid the sun, build your castle, and begin to thrive in an ever-changing open world full of mystery. This is set in a gothic open world with various biomes, mythical horrors, along with potential friends and foes. And you can live as a lone vampire or team up with your blood-sucking friends to conquer the land of the living. This is one of the big hits of 2022 in the survival genre. Tens of thousands of Steam reviews and a very positive rating. It's doing well. V Rising entered early access in May and is meant to be in early access for a year. It could take longer, since I find games that stay in early access for super long times either have a lot of criticism or gain a lot of popularity, so feature creep is a risk. But it's playable now and has a lot of coverage, so you can see exactly what V Rising is before getting into it if you want to survive as a vampire. Now, for a handful of sci-fi survival games set in space. Life Not Supported by Sam Stubbings. Be a lone survivor orbiting a potentially new home planet, but you're tethered to what's left of your ship. Gather nearby debris and build yourself a makeshift vessel to try and survive the harshness of space and live long enough to find out what went wrong. Crafting tools, building a space base, repairing things as everything is hurtling its way through orbit, but also explore biomes, decorate your home, and solve mysteries. Early looks seem okay, if rough and unpolished, and the premise sounds interesting, but gameplay needs to live up to and reflect the idea for this to remain compelling. Entering early access in 2022 and having playable demos through that year, the idea is to fully release early 2023, but that sounds optimistic to me based on my experience watching these developments. Something properly playable will be available soon though, for Life Not Supported. Next up we've got Forever Skies by Far From Home. First-person action survival. Here we're back on Earth after an ecological disaster destroyed almost everything. Fly a high-tech airship while also expanding, rebuilding and repairing it, then scavenge for resources and face the dangers of the surface to hunt for viral pathogens to cure a mysterious illness. Research progress is also important to find new ways to obtain food and discover new tools. Not sure if it's just me, but this is kind of giving me Subnautica vibes but without the water. Perhaps I'm just conflating tropes. Future plans for this game include co-op, so as the world expands through development, you won't have to go it alone if you don't want to. Just check if they have actually added co-op before jumping in if that's important to you. Releasing as an early access title in 2022 is the target, and then about a year to launch for Forever Skies. For a popular one, it's The Planet Crafter by Miju Games. Terraforming and crafting in an open world is the name of this game as you transform the ecosystem of a hostile planet to make it livable for humans. Survive, collect, build your base, then create oxygen, heat, and pressure to make a new biosphere. It's an eye-catching game visually, and it's been getting regular updates adding in new content and features. An important point here is that it's very clear that there will not be any kind of monsters, combat, or violence. So this is purely survival and terraforming, which is what a lot of people are looking for. This game went into early access early 2022 and kind of blew up. It's got over 10,000 reviews on Steam at an overwhelmingly positive rating. So people are enjoying the Planet Crafter so far, and full release is aiming for sometime by early 2024. Alright, we can't make a list like this without mentioning Arc 2 by Studio Wildcard and Grove Street Games. Yes, that's Vin Diesel in the trailer, and no, I don't think it makes the game look any more promising. The original Arc spent years building, fixing, and improving the game, so I would expect Arc 2 to need a lot of continuous work as well after release to get it to that level where most people are happy with it. I do expect Arc 2 to be a big ticket item though, whether it's refined or messy on release, but the lack of actual gameplay footage after so long since the announcement doesn't make me feel good about it, but it's stated 2023 for some kind of release, so we should know exactly what it is soon if they do actually stick to that schedule. What do you think Arc 2 will be on release? Instant success or buggy mess? Do you think it'll even release into early access in 2023? I just kind of hope we get to see some actual gameplay in a trailer if nothing else, for Arc 2. Moving on to some weirder creatures. It's OddFauna Secret of the Terrabeast by Cliff Mitchell. Travel, make strange new friends, and grow your world. This is a colorful open world sandbox that has farming, crafting, harnessing the elements, and shaping the land. It says you can play your way, being clever, creative, or even mischievous, while you befriend strange beasts, dodge dangerous surprises, gather resources, and explore unique biomes. It looks weird and charming, and it's nice to see that we have more games that aren't going all out on the dark seriousness. Though obviously this is going to be for a more specific audience, but any kind of variety is good. After a successful Kickstarter raising $250,000, it's now planning to go into early access by the end of 2022, then taking over a year to fully release, as it adds in character customization, new abilities, more biomes, narrative encounters, a merchant system, and more. OddFauna Secret of the Terrabeast isn't going to be done soon, but should become playable not too long from now. For perhaps even weirder creatures of your own making, it's Adapt by Paul Hervé. Look, it's Spore! Well, not quite. There have been a few games over the years that have tried to emulate the groundbreaking yet overly ambitious Spore, but I'm not sure if any have lived up to their inspiration. Here you have to survive in a constantly changing world by competing with strange creatures for food and territory. Find your niche so the competition isn't too great, or risk going extinct. It's not so much about whether you will survive, just about how long you can. Deep species customization, seasons that affect plant life, complex species AI, and sensory cues to help you find friends, threats, and food are all promised, which sounds great if it's all delivered. This has been having some demo time through 2022, which is always nice to see, and the idea is to release into early access and evolve into a full release after 1 to 2 years. So if things stick to that, Adapt will be done over the next year or so. Next up, we've got Palworld by Pocketpair. A survival game based on monster capturing like Pokemon, but what you can do with your pals goes much further and probably into more realistic territories. Besides befriending and fighting with your pals, there's seemingly forced labor, using them as living shields, factory farming, and more abusive practices are at your disposal. Plus, there's a lot of guns. If this was a Pokemon episode, it'd definitely be one of the banned ones. It was meant to release in 2022, but got delayed into 2023, kind of oddly by saying that the stated release window on Steam wasn't representative of an actual release window and just tentative, which is weird since they could just put TBA or coming soon as the release date on Steam. You know, if you put 2022, people are gonna expect 2022. Being delayed a bit is fine though. Will the game actually have all the features shown off in the trailer? That's another thing entirely. This is from the same developers as Craftopia, which is another multiplayer survival action game that I've listed before, but that's been in early access for a few years now with very positive reviews. So hopefully Palworld ends up equally as good. And then we have Under a Rock by Nordic Trolls. Procedural open-world survival and crafting for 1 to 10 players in a game that is visually striking. Explore a primitive and dangerous place where wildlife is oversized, Neanderthals still exist, and curses are real. You're here to find out what happened to the last expedition to come here, to lift the curse, and to get back home, while also maybe collecting some treasures along the way to increase your standing with a society of explorers. Of course, there is also crafting, building, fighting, taming, and hunting, so all the staples of the survival genre. One big thing is there's meant to be advanced AI for the rival clans, where they compete for land and resources, which does sound cool. It all looks super interesting, but until people can get their hands on the game, nothing is for sure. There isn't any kind of release date right now, but it's going to go into early access then stay that way for about 1 year. They do acknowledge that early access timelines often run longer than expected, but we'll see if the promise to finish Under a Rock stays true over the next year or maybe longer. Scaling down, we have SMALLAND by Merge Games. In a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids scenario, here you build on a tiny scale in a realm of towering grass and giant bugs. Of course, the big competition to this is Grounded, which is meant to fully release by the end of 2022, and Grounded is apparently getting an animated TV series. So SMALLAND has its work cut out for itself if it wants to compete, and towards the end of 2022 it hasn't even begun its early access on Steam. Will SMALLAND be able to carve a piece of the small-scale survival building and crafting pie, or will Grounded just grow so big it overshadows all competition? From what we can see of SMALLAND, it does look to be quite a different game, but either way, SMALLAND has a big challenge ahead of it, and we'll see how they try and offer something different or better. for a zombie apocalypse we've been waiting for a while now. It's The Day Before by Fantastic. An open-world survival MMO set in a deadly post-pandemic USA that's overrun by flesh-hungry zombies. This is more on the action side of the survival genre, but you'll still be scavenging for resources, food, weapons, and cars. It's just that there's a lot of undead and other survivors who are trying to kill you in the process. There's also house customization, weapon crafting, and you can find a colony of survivors, trade, and help to restore society. What we've seen does seem to be good, if you're into the zombie kind of thing anyway. But I've been so wary about games that look this good, that don't have public demos or early access, and I get the sense things won't look so good on release. If The Day Before is actually what the marketing suggests it is, I'm going to be pleasantly surprised. I know you're looking forward to this. It's literally the most wishlisted game on Steam. But I just want to caution you to maybe see what it's like on release first before jumping on the hype train. Set for release on the 1st of March 2023, it's not a long way off if you're looking forward to this one. And then we have Dune Awakening by Funcom. Said to be kind of like Conan Exiles but on Arrakis? This is an open-world multiplayer survival MMO where you rise from survival to dominance in a vast and seamless Arrakis, shared by thousands of players. With a focus on social elements, this aims to combine survival gameplay with large-scale persistent multiplayer communities. Gameplay is said to be about exploring an ever-changing Arrakis, hunting for blooms of spice, influencing the Landsraad, and over time, awakening the sleeper. This does sound like it's got more than just survival. Politics and intrigue are ingrained into the Dune universe, so it'll be interesting to see how it's woven in here. We haven't seen anything besides a cinematic trailer, so honestly we know basically nothing besides promises, and there isn't a stated release window either. So Dune Awakening is on the way, and we'll know more in the future. If you like Norse stuff, then you might like this. It's Sky by Aurora Game Studios. Calling itself hyper-realistic, which is a big claim, this is set on the Isle of Skye during the Viking period. You wash ashore and have to fight the elements and the island's natural predators while trying to figure out how you ended up here in the first place. Explore the rugged terrain, hunt and farm, construct modular structures, craft a bunch of real-world items, and hold out against the changing weather and seasons on a massive 256 square kilometer map under an aurora-filled sky. Now, sure, it looks great, but from what we've seen, it doesn't actually feel like it's all that clear on how this game is going to be. Some teaser clips and screenshots don't give huge confidence by themselves, but we should be able to get a proper look before washing up on these shores. Heading into early access first, that will go through alpha and beta phases. It's expected to take at least a year for Sky to fully release, and the plan is to continue making new content and DLC after the release. We of course still have to mention Valheim by Iron Gate. The survival sensation that took the world by storm. Norse-inspired survival with 1 to 10 players set in a procedurally generated purgatory. Battle, build, and conquer. You know, before Valheim released and sold 1 million copies a week, I actually looked at the game. There was no proper trailer, just a few screenshots of a middle poly generic looking survival game that seemed to be tacking on to the then trend of making everything about Vikings. A few weeks later, with almost no warning, we had what was one of the biggest games of the year on our hands. Valheim is the perfect example of how impossible it is to predict which upcoming game is going to be good or bad, and is why I try to include as much as I can in these lists. Almost 60 games if you count the bonus section as well. Anyway, I personally love the middle poly approach to the visuals, as it's reminiscent to late 90s, early 2000s graphics, and considering the overwhelmingly positive reviews it's got in early access, it's remained a success. Valheim has been continuing development, and it's still floating around the top 50 biggest games on Steam based on concurrent players, so if you want to jump in but haven't, this seems like a safe bet. Setting sail in Salt 2: Shores of Gold by Lava Boot Studios. It's pirate time! Stay alive while sailing the seas in this exploration, survival, and crafting game. You have an infinite procedural world with just you and your ship. Find islands filled with quests, caves, towns, secrets, and other pirates. Also, you'll be able to level up your skills, craft, hunt, fish, loot, and most importantly, decorate your ship. Overall, it's a nice idea, but there are a number of pirate games going around right now, and early footage of this one does seem a lot less refined than what's available if you're just into the pirate theme. Sea of Thieves has been popular for some years now, and there's Skull and Bones entering the stage. And although survival might not be the main focus of those games, they do take up a lot of space in the pirate sector. Anyway, this is entering early access in September 2022, and 1 year of development is what's on the treasure map, but the journey to the X could take longer, as it usually does once all the pirates weigh in with their opinion. So, it's 2023 onwards for Salt 2: Shores of Gold to reach its destination. And then for an intriguing one, it's Renown by RDBK Studios. Set in a lush medieval world, you'll explore the land, gather resources, build a kingdom, and fight to survive in the hopes of becoming renowned. There aren't a lot of medieval survival games out there, and this has some unique points. Combat is complex, with various specific attacks, dragging and fainting. Meanwhile, building won't just be a base, including external walls and castle buildings. Going out, you can raid or lay siege, all while trying to earn renown. That can be from accomplishing feats, doing tasks, engaging in combat, and more. This looks great, and from the list of features, this isn't just another survival game with a medieval setting. It's trying to actually be incorporating medieval life and activities, and that could be great if it does actually all work. There's a small chance this releases by the end of 2022, but in all likelihood, Renown is going to be a 2023 release, and hopefully, it's as good as promised. For the final main entry, but don't forget the bonus games. If you count those, we're only halfway through, really, so make sure you stick around. It's The Lord of the Rings: Return to Moria by Free Range Games. Lord of the Rings is getting a lot of attention these days with the new series in production, and a survival game wasn't exactly the most expected thing to be made. Spring 2023 is the target release window, and of course, we have to assume that means Northern Hemisphere? Really, stop using seasons to refer to time? Well, this game is about reclaiming the dwarven realm of Moria. That's the goal here in a lore-rich world. Base building to reconstruct and reshape Moria, explore the depths but hopefully not too deep, and survive the dark by hunting, controlling light, and managing sleep, noise, and temperature to not be caught off guard. It says you can play alone or in co-op multiplayer with up to 8 players, so you can band together and form your own fellowship if you so desire. We haven't seen much, though. A nice trailer and some good-looking screenshots, but not enough to make a proper judgment. But with a release window so soon, we should be getting a clearer vision of The Lord of the Rings: Return to Moria over the coming months. Alright, now for a bunch of bonus games, but if you made it this far, you probably enjoyed your time here, and it would be greatly appreciated if you could like, subscribe, share this video, and ring that bell, as it really does help keep this channel running. Also, you can support more directly by using the GOG or Humble referral links to buy games, or support directly on Patreon to really help push what I do further, and keep these lists being made on time. All linked below, along with the Discord community, Twitch live streams, and my Twitter, where I'm active and contactable. Now for those bonus games, beginning with Hytale. People always ask for it here, so I'd like to let you know that this, along with many other games, are in the MMORPG list. Also, keep in mind survival city builders would be in the city building list. Long Winter. This is an indie-looking survival game, but it has mixed reviews right now due to being buggy, reports of weird moderation, and various other issues. So I might check back with this one next year. Then there's Tribe Primitive Builder. Survive and build your reputation among your tribe members. It looks okay, but development got a bit rough. It's supposed to release in some form in 2023, but we haven't seen much, and we'll have to see if the devs can actually get back on track. No Man's Island. A wilderness survival game, but it looks pretty rough based on how gameplay looks right now, and the title is awfully brave considering No Man's Sky. But there's a free prologue demo to check out, so it's available. The Lost Wild. More of a survival horror game, but it's about dinosaurs, and people seem pretty interested, though it's targeting a 2024 release window. And a curiously interesting one called Camp Canyonwood. It's sort of like Don't Starve survival gameplay combined with camp management. Maybe not a proper survival game, but it could be interesting for you. And then I want to talk about some long-term developments that have been in the works for years, beginning with the most recent one, Craftopia. I mentioned this earlier, it's been in early access since 2020, which isn't so long, but with all the competition this year, I figured I'd put newer and less known games in the main list. Volcanoids. I have listed this one before, and it's been in early access since 2019. It's got a lot of digging and drilling if you're into that. Scum. I always get asked about this, and it's massively popular, but it's been in early access since 2018. Mist Survival. This is a survival stealth sandbox. It's been in early access since 2018. Scrap Mechanic. I've listed this one for years, and it's been in early access since 2016. The Isle. Dinosaur survival, and it's a very popular game, but it's been in early access since 2015. Rising World. Surviving in a voxel-based world in early access since 2014. Project Zomboid. This is an old survival game about surviving in a zombie apocalypse, but it blew up into the mainstream over the past couple years, and it's been getting even more updates and improvements, so I thought I'd mention it. Technically, it's been in early access since 2013. Occupy Mars the game. We've listed this for years and years. It got a free demo prologue in 2020 and says it's going into early access soon, so maybe it'll finally release in some form this time? And of course, Sons of the Forest, the sequel to The Forest. It was supposed to release in 2021, then early 2022, then late 2022, and now early 2023. Will it actually release this time? Who knows? And then for a few games that at the time of making this video, they're supposed to release in 2022, but they haven't yet. So if you're wondering why they're not in the main list if they were delayed, it's Tree of Life Audria. You wake up on a strange island and get to choose whether you want to be a kind friend or an enemy. Beyond Contact, a sci-fi alien world survival game that went into early access in 2021 and was meant to be out of early access in 6 months. It's been a year and still no announcement of a completion date. I Am Future. You're alone on a skyscraper in a sunken city in what's supposed to be the coziest post-apocalypse ever. And then we've got Nobody the Turnaround. It's a realistic survival simulator set in a parallel world that echoes modern society. And for the last set of games in this list, they are rumored and possibly very distant survival games. State of Decay 3. This is a big name, and it's supposedly a big sequel, but there's been no proper news for years since its reveal. Maybe it'll suddenly release, or it might stay in limbo for years more, but we haven't even seen a shred of gameplay yet. Kenshi 2. The first game took a decade to release, so if this becomes playable, expect it to be a long haul. Prologue by Player Unknown. This doesn't seem to have a title or anything revealed or confirmed, but it's by Player Unknown, so there's that. Road to Vostok. Still seems early in development and meant to release into early access, taking up to 4 years in early access. So this is looking at a 2027 or further for full release. A Light Lunar Survival. From the same developers as Karagon, which is in the list. This was announced recently, but nothing but a trailer right now. If they somehow manage to release this soon while also releasing Karagon, I'll be surprised. So I have to assume this is going to be much later. And then there are reports of a Terminator survival game. This is supposed to be an open world survival game, and there's a cinematic trailer but no gameplay revealed. Blizzard announced they are working on a survival game. There's no particular details on this yet, but it has a bit of artwork. And finally, there are some murmurs of Subnautica 3 title pending. Another episode to the ever-popular aquatic survival game. We don't know anything about it or what it'll be called, but it's apparently in the works. And that's 30 plus upcoming survival games that should be releasing through 2023 and some into 2024 depending on their developments. Which ones are you most interested in? Also, here's something I'd like to know. Do you care if these survival games stay in early access for years? You can see some don't label themselves as complete for up to a decade. Is that kind of weird and misleading, or is it totally fine? For me, a game is a game. But if I want to make these kind of upcoming lists, it's kind of hard when there are some games that are never not upcoming. What do you think? Meanwhile, if you'd like to see more upcoming games, this is only one list of many. So drop by the upcoming games list videos for so much more. The 6 genres I've done this year are listed at the top of the screen. Take your pick and I'll see you there. Alright, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful, and I'll see you in the next video.